What's up guys, Calamity Jean here. Super excited, we have officially added a new pony to the barn. This Suzuki V-Strom 800DE is mine. This is not a rental, it's not a loaner, it's not a media bike. Bought it. So this is in box stock form here. You can see we put a couple 100 miles on it, just getting to know it. Not a whole lot of miles, but we are ready to start our build. So if you've been following my adventures in the last year or so, you know that I've been traveling quite a bit, going to a lot of these mid-size adventure bike intros. Went to South Africa for the Husqvarna 901 expedition. We got to ride Triumphs in Spain, and also got to try out the Ducati DesertX rally in Morocco, and what an insane ride that was. Had a couple other opportunities to try out some bikes at home, including the 800DE. And when it came time to buy one, you know, price was definitely a factor as well, but a lot of people were asking me, why in the world did you pick this bike? Well, it's a fair question. Why the Suzuki DE after I've ridden all those bikes that are pretty clearly superior in spec, in performance, in all of the things? Well, what it is about this 800DE that I absolutely fell in love with was completely captivated by the chassis. It has a handling characteristic that I didn't see in any of those other bikes, and I do think that it's lacking in some spots. Clearly in suspension, we need to beef that up, need to drop a little bit of weight. There's some other fit and finish things we can add on there. But this was the bike that captured my attention, that I couldn't stop thinking about. And it was, again, about the chassis, about the way that it handles. I think there's a lot you can always do to a bike to punch up the motor. You can always change suspension, get that tuned. But when a chassis itself has that characteristic of being so light and responsive and agile, you literally just point your toes and the bike seems to react. You can't put that on a bike that doesn't already have it. The bike is created from the ground floor with that. You don't add that in there. So that's what this bike has. That's what I absolutely fell in love with. And it honestly reminds me a lot of my RMZ 250 that I used to have, just how agile and responsive that it is. So that's really what I'm looking forward to, kind of peeling the onion here and seeing how much more performance we can draw out of this. And I think it's only a few mods away from being very decent in the dirt. I'm not looking for a fire breather. I'm not looking for a race bike build. I still want this to be street legal. I still want it to be comfortable at cruising speeds. If I want to go nuts off-road, I'm going to do that on a dual sport or a 450. I'm not going to do it on a 500-pound bike. Still looking forward to punching up the suspension and that performance off-road, and I think that there's a lot of potential here, that it's just below the surface. So our first step of the build is today, and we're at TBT Suspension. I'm here with Travis Flateau, aka Tuner. Wonderful guy, very talented suspension artist. He's done suspension on most of my bikes in the last decade, so it's the first one I called to take a look at the V-Strom and see if he wanted to accept this challenge. This is going to be a little bit of a learning curve for both of us, because we don't know what's in there, what we're working with internals wise. I have seen some other builds on the 800DE where they are full, just swapping out the suspension components entirely. I don't want to do that. I want this to be more of a real world build. So we're going to keep those external components anyway. We might be swapping out internals, but to me, that's all part of that really tantalizing chassis that I love. The triple clamp, the fork tubes, all of it, how it all kind of comes together as one tuning fork from the factory. And so many people don't realize how much tuning and time and perfecting is put into the entire thing. I mean, even the torque spec of the engine mounts. All of it comes together. All of it plays a role in the way that it handles. And that's what I really want to keep intact, and then see where we can go with the rest of this. Today is day one. We're gonna do suspension first. Then we're gonna move on to things like the tires, some weight savings. Today we're also going to do some bits and bobs, foot pegs, mirrors, exhaust. We're going to put on a Yosh slip-on. We're also going to swap out the airbox. So really looking forward to getting this build started and seeing how we can transform this very humble mid-size ADV. Stay tuned.